Hey guys, welcome back to Beer Brackets. Today we got a really fun, different kind of episode for you. So what we wanted to do, you've seen a lot of episodes of Alessandro and I opening and closing our beer brackets together. Specifically, check out our Beer Bracket of the Month episodes to get a good idea of what that's all about. So we thought we would bring in a friend of ours, well, a close friend of Alessandro, somebody I've met as well. His name is Drew. Alessandro, I will let you, since you guys are close friends, I will let you do a full intro on Drew so our audience knows before we jump right into the video. Drew, to say the least, is a Yuengling enthusiast, but I'll let you tell us more.
He definitely is. He loves his Yuengling, but on top of that, he's also a great expert in beer, spirits in particular, whiskey in particular. He knows a lot about wine too. But we thought it would be fun to bring him on the channel to do a little review on Yuengling, the lager specifically, because that's a beer that he absolutely adores. So we'll see what happens. Stick around, check it out.
See, we can't review Yuengling ourselves because I can't get it up in Canada where I am, so we can't do a full review. But we thought we wanted to have a review of it on the channel, and who better to do it than Drew? If I try and picture Drew, I like Drew and a case of 12 of Yuengling are kind of synonymous in my mind. They go hand in hand. So who better to do it than him? Guys, enjoy. A little bit of a different fun episode. As always, open and close your beer brackets along with us. Enjoy the ride. Let us know what you're opening and closing your beer brackets with.
Cheers. Cheers. And in this case in particular, if you can't find it, crack open a Yuengling. Cheers, guys. I just wanted to try. Hey. Oh, there he is.
Hey. What's up, Drew? How's it going?
Doing, buddy?
Doing good, doing good. How are you?
Good. Long time no see.
Yeah, long time. I like your setup there. Oh man, you got the Yuengling sign. That's amazing.
All for it. Not even sponsored. I'm waiting on it. So Joe, now they open up the borders. When are you coming back?
They haven't, man. They're still closed.
Are they?
Have they? Yeah, they're still unless it's essential travel. So if you're going for
maybe, I thought that as soon as Biden got elected president, I thought he just opened all Canadians' borders.
You would think, right? He hasn't. Not yet, at least. Man,
maybe it is just essential travel then. No, I thought he opened up Canada's border.
Not yet. I think. It was never completely closed, so maybe they changed something with that. Like I said, if it's essential travel, if you live there and you're going back and forth, you can still go back and forth. But
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, that's it. So if I'm not an American citizen, obviously I can't travel to the U.S. unless
or dual citizenship or whatnot.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Man, Alessandro, you got which one are you starting with? I think we should I want to open these up. I just want to get going with the beers, but you start before I do.
Okay. So I picked for the first one the Petrus Old Brewing.
What? I've never heard of this before.
So this is a Belgian old brown, the translation is. So it falls into that sour category if you want. It's similar to the Dutchess that we've had. The Dutchess is a red ale, Flanders red ale. This is the old brown ale, which is similar in the fact that it's made in the same process. It's aged for a year. It is mixed with young beer to produce a good balance of flavors. But the difference here is that this is not aged in oak barrels, so there's no wild yeast effect to it. So while the red ales tend to be a little bit more fruity, these tend to be a little bit more malty. So it's a good contrast. I thought it would be interesting to try it with you guys.
That's so cool. I've never heard of this one. Drew, have you tried this?
I believe I have, or I may have had the Petrus also has a red ale, I believe, that I've had.
Yeah.
So man, I know you as just I've always seen you drinking Yuengling.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen you drink any other kind of beer. I know you're a bourbon Scotch guy, right?
Yeah, I mean, I dabble a little bit of everything, but there's several other beers that I love, like St. Bernardus. I really enjoy as well, like you guys.
Nice.
Definitely more into the darker beers, stouts, porters, anything bourbon barrel aged. But I have one that's going to throw you that you guys haven't had on the show yet, or at least a different style anyway. So,
go ahead.
Yeah. Show us, man. What do you got?
So this is the Dogfish Head 90-minute IPA.
Oh, I've heard of that before. I've never tried it though.
Great choice,
yeah.
man.
Yeah, and lots of good history about it too. We'll have to go into the story about Dogfish Head a little bit later. But the 90-minute was actually what lifted their brewery into stardom, so to say. A lot of people kind of look at the 60-minute as their flagship brand. They've done all sorts of, eclectic different styles of beer. Like their whole motto is for the uncentered people. But this is actually really what got their brewery up and running and really burst them through the doors.
That's
Awesome.
so cool, man.
Do you want to crack it open and pour it, man?
Yeah, pour it out.
Let's do it. So I had this beer one time before, and if I remember right, it's not quite as pale.
Oh, you're gonna do the whole tasting. I love it with the Glencairn. Yes.
I love it. He's the perfect guest.
So it is slightly darker than most of the IPAs I've seen, where most of them are more like straw colored. This one's a little more honeyed.
That is pretty dark. You're right.
Look at him. He's a professional. I love it. Like he's got the tasting glass. It's like, yes.
You can tell just from the way he's pouring that.
Look at that. Perfect pour.
Well, man, I wouldn't expect any less from you two. You guys are basically professionals at this point.
Professional drinkers, yes.
Well, yeah, and you've worked in the industry before, so you've got experience on both sides there.
Correct.
Joe?
So okay, yeah. So this is actually interesting because Drew, you said you like barrel aged, and Alessandro, this goes back to one of our last reviews. Actually, hasn't aired yet, but then will have aired just before this episode, so it's going to be relevant. But I'm actually going with the one that you can't get, fortunately. We tried the Innocent Gun original. I'm going with the Innocent Gun Lager. So, yeah, the original was amazing. Drew, have you ever tried the Innocent Gun?
I have actually.
Because you guys
they changed their labels a couple years ago.
Oh, nice.
They did. So they had a bourbon barrel aged porter, I think is what it was, or actually strong ale, I think is what they classified it as. And I think more similar to like a wee heavy. And then they also had the rum barrel aged ale as well, their red ale.
Yeah.
They still have that one.
So
they just changed the name. The rum barrel, they still make that one.
Right. Yeah, I know they still make that one. And they also have their season release of the Irish barrel aged.
Don't they call it like the Jamaican rum barrel aged now or something? Didn't they?
It's like red rum or something.
Caribbean cask.
Caribbean cask. There you go. Yeah.
Caribbean or Caribbean. I don't know.
Yeah. So man, this one is so much brighter than the original. I mean, the original had like those dark golden colors to it. This is a really sort of really light lager in terms of color. It's almost like you got the light in front of you there, so it's reflecting off the glass a little bit. You can't really tell, but it's a really sort of translucent yellow. It's really nice.
Well, gentlemen, cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Let's open these
Drew,
beer
thanks for joining us. There's hidden leaves on the Canadian flag that you don't know about. You think there's one.
Oh, okay. Is this like the US dollar and the Illuminati kind of thing? Or
yeah. If you hold it up to the sunlight at 3 p.m., you can see it kind of in the texture of the red blocks on the side of the leaf. They're hidden.
I got you.
Yeah.
If you squeeze it hard enough, the syrup come out?
Yeah, when you rub it, it like smells like syrup. It's like a scratching sniff.
Got it. Okay.
Is it whole
We have those here in Florida. They're just called lottery tickets.
But Drew, I don't know if you've seen their Canadian money. That first time I actually got it, that freaked me out because you can see through it. It's like, oh my god! Like,
you know what those are? Do you know why they do that?
Is it
it's
a
just like
security feature?
anti-counterfeit. Yeah, exactly. So they went really all out with the anti-counterfeit measures. I remember when I was a kid. I don't know what it's like in the States because I think that the money is a little bit more. The paper that they use, I think, is a little bit different in the States, or at least it used to be. And it was super easy to counterfeit the money for a little while here. So I remember just so many counterfeit bills out there, especially $5 bills for some reason were super easy to counterfeit. So it would happen all the time where you'd get change and then you'd go to a store and then somebody would spot it and be like, no, it's counterfeit, man, sorry. And then you throw it away like, shit. It's like, man, I just lost $5. And it happened all the time. And then apparently the 50s were being super counterfeited too. So then they came out with like those translucent, really like space age kind of bills right before money became obsolete, and now nobody carries cash anymore, so it's
Right.
completely useless. But this is actually, you know what? I'm a little disappointed, but it's good. It's a good lager, but just the fact that it's innocent gun, I'm a little disappointed by it. So there's barely any aroma, and I've got like a Belgian beer glass here, so it's a little bit angled. You know, it's good for aromas, and I mean, you're getting standard lager aromas, but there's nothing else. Like I was thinking with innocent gun, there would be some kind of whiskey tone there to the aroma, something in that nature. There's nothing. And on the taste, it's really light. It's really easy to drink. It's really good. But this could be, anything else.
Anybody's lager.
This could be anybody's lager. It's a really good lager. But there's like some flavor elements that are missing there. I'm a little disappointed. Man, considering how good their original is and how much we love that.
Yeah, the original was pretty good.
I remember their beers just being very strong, just very, very aromatic, and
it was super aromatic. Yeah,
would put you back if you weren't ready for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I was actually, you're talking about the original, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All of them. Every varietal I've had has been like that. I haven't had their new lager, but
yeah. So we, funny enough, before we did the review, I was telling Alessandro I didn't used to like the original because I'd only ever drank it straight out of the can. And when you drink it straight out of the can, you get a lot of that sweetness, and it's not as well-rounded as it is when you pour it out and let it breathe a little bit. And this was the first time that we actually kind of poured it out into a glass, let it sit for a little bit. And when you get the aromas and you get the taste and everything all together, it was a completely different experience, and it was amazing. And I'd had that beers a bunch of times because I have one of my friends that loves it, and he gets it every time I go over. And so I drink it all the time. Be like, it's just a little too sweet for me. I don't like my beer to be too sweet. But then breaking it out in a glass was completely different. Yeah, it just opened it up.
All right, Drew, what do you think about the 90 minutes? Give us some impressions.
So again, just going back to the color, it is, like I said, much darker than any other IPA or pale ale that you see typically. On the nose, it is hoppy. Not a lot of citrus notes, not grapefruit, coriander, orange peel, anything of that nature, but just slight pine, but just general fresh hop smell is what you get. And it's very almost herbal.
How's yours, Alessandro? I'm dying to hear about that one.
So the aroma is not as potent as the Duchess,
no.
But
parts of the
what was that? Sorry.
That was one of the best parts of the Duchess, like the amazing aroma.
It was, and that's kind of what in this beer I like it because it has like some more subtle notes, and it's more malt forward. And on the nose, really, you get a little bit more of that toasted character. You wouldn't really tell that it's a sour. There's a little bit of an edge of acidity, but not too crazy. It's really just like slight. The toasted element or malty element is what you get most. On the palate, it changes. Like you do get a little bit more of that bright acidity. There's not too much of that like vinegar or cherry. That's completely not there. It's more malt forward. Mm-hmm. It tastes more like a regular beer if you want in that concept. While the Duchess is a little bit taking that concept like and bringing it to the extreme. This one here is more mainstream in that regard. You do taste like the sourness, but it's not overpowering.
Yeah. Drew, have you tried the Duchess before?
I have. That was actually the first sour beer I ever had.
Really?
So, yeah. And it was complete shock. I thought it tasted like balsamic vinaigrette.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Exactly.
But it was after getting through several different sours and trying, different Flemish ales and Flanders Reds and whatnot, learned to appreciate it. It's still not something that I think I could drink a 750 size bottle of.
No, definitely not.
But I can enjoy it. The acidity is definitely there, and it tears my tongue apart, but it's good.
It's funny. We did kind of like a perfect rating, which I wasn't expecting at all. And man, it's that balsamic vinegar is this flavor that you don't expect to get from beer at all, and just the effect that it has on your tongue that you mentioned makes you salivate. You get that tingling sensation, also like that, just like a strong burning. And then I was so torn at first because it's like you taste the balsamic and then you taste like the chocolate and the cherry and the aftertaste. And it doesn't seem like it's something that should taste good, and that's something you should enjoy. For me, my brain is just like, this isn't good, but then it's like, but it is good. It's like really good. But it's just like, it was such conflicting information for my brain. It's just like, this isn't something you're supposed to be drinking. But
there's a lot of layers to it. I mean, I remember, like you said, the balsamic vinaigrette, there's a lot of umami, but then as well, you have, the sourness, those cherries, the tartness that you get from it, and then, the chocolate. You get some rich notes from it. It's a very good beer, but it's definitely, you got to take your time with it.
Yeah, I know. I think it's one of those where I could only drink sort of one of them and you enjoy it. Kind of pour it out, you sip it, you experience it for what it is, but it's not one where you sit down and drink 3 or 4 of them. That's for sure.
Right.
It's not a session ale.
Correct.
What about the 90 minutes, Drew? Would you call that a session ale?
No, actually, it's much higher ABV. I believe it's actually at 9%. Is where we're at. Yeah, 9% is where that one is. But really good. I would actually almost compare this closer to a like a London bitter ale more than an IPA. Just because you can get some maltiness from it. It's not just like drinking a pine tree. It's not overly citrus. It's very balanced. Very balanced.
What do you guys know about Naked Golden Oats? Is this something you're familiar with? Because on this can of Innocent Gun, it says it's brewed with naked golden oats. This lager in particular. And I have never heard the term naked oats. You're probably seeing it back.
Naked golden oats.
And I'm guessing it has something to do with the way the oats are either roasted or prepared during the brewing process.
Right. They're probably just not toasted or roasted or anything.
Most likely. Yeah. That's it. And you know what? That would actually explain it. Like, I think when I was saying it was almost like a bit of a plain lager in a lot of ways, it doesn't have that kind of toasted element that I really appreciate out of a good lager that we talk about all the time, Alessandro. Like a light lager like this, I want that kind of toasted element. But maybe that's what the naked oats means. Maybe they don't toast them beforehand. Maybe they're just straight up, and then it's creating like this really kind of smooth, neutral flavor. It's good. I can sit down and drink 7 of these and not even notice it. But yeah, as like a one-off experience, it's kind of, especially because of the original. The original was so flavorful and so original. That's why it's called the original, but unique, so good.
I think that the issue there is that you read Innocent Gun and you're thinking one of the barrel aged beers, right? So you're associating that with that barrel strong flavor that comes through. With the original, the Irish, or the even the rum cask, like they all have that staple signature taste. And then you crack open that, like from your description, it seems like you're kind of expecting that, but then it doesn't show that, so it's kind of a little bit of a disappointment in that regard.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that they would have some of those characteristics in it, just because it has that Innocent Gun name on it, but it's just a straight good light lager. So you live and you learn.
What you doing down there, Drew? You got your stash?
I got my whole stash down there. I was looking to see if I had any Innocent Gun left from a year ago.
I love it. You just got like a random stash sitting there of Innocent Guns.
I got a random stash of beer. I could pull out pretty much whatever you want down here.
You got the white whale?
I think he's got the white
whale.
Got
some Warheads Extreme Sour Cherry. Got a due south Mexican standoff.
I love it.
So, this one's a porter with chocolate, vanilla, cinnamon, and chili peppers.
This should just be a YouTube channel on itself, just Drew pulling out beers and just reading the can. Yeah, my Mexican standoff.
I love it, man. That's hilarious. Hey, there you go. Take a good sip. Cheers, guys. Like, this is so awesome.
Cheers, guys. Drew, thanks for joining us, man.
Cheers. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Yeah. It's interesting. It's more like a malt beverage than it is anything. It's kind of like the same idea as like a Colt 45 or something along that line.
You guys have speaking of malt beer, and man, Alessandro, I really want to do a review episode of some malt liquors one day. It'd be amazing. Like, just whip out some Colt 45s. Do you guys have Bullmax down there? Have you ever heard of that? I'll send you guys a picture later. So at least in Quebec, I don't know if it's all over Canada, but if you go to like fridge of the liquor store, the corner store. They'd have the Colt 45s. And then with the rest of the malt liquor, they had this one called Bull Max. And it was just like a nondescript bottle with just like a picture of a bull face on it. And it had, so as you were drinking it, it revealed like a bigger bull face on the inside as you got down through it. It was just the most disgusting shit ever drank in your life. And of course, like, it's dirt cheap. So it was the first beer that me and my friends ever drank in our life. So that was our introduction to beer, just drinking on Bull Max. Nasty.
I'm sure we have something equivalent here, Drew. What's the name of that that one that comes in a can, like in a 40s can, 40s ounce can?
Colt 45 is one of them.
Yes.
Old English is another one. I mean, there's a lot of them. It's just, your gas station 40-ounce beer is what it is.
Exactly. Yeah. And in Canada, we got a whole bunch of Molson with that made too. I think I showed you those before, Alessandro, right? Like Molson and Labatt, they both make these beers. They don't export. They only sell them in Quebec, and they're in 40s. And so you have like Molson, like 7.5, 8%, 8.5, 9, 10, 11, and it goes up to 12. So you have just like Molson 12, and that's all it says on the label, and it's just nasty.
Is Ice House from Canada as well?
I've never heard of it. I don't know.
Oh, well, then I guess not then.
Another one. It might be, man. I don't know. We were kind of, Quebec was a little different. We didn't get stuff that the rest of Canada got because of the whole French English thing.
Right, I was about to say, French people don't want everything there. And
well, it's just like for companies producing the labels and the packaging and everything, if they don't want to spend the extra money to translate everything and have the French and the English on the labels, then they just don't send it to Quebec. So a lot of people just do that. So they'll send it to the rest of Canada, but then we just never got it. So I'm looking at Norwegian beers. I'm like, there are no names here that I recognize.
Give me some names.
Ringnes, Ringnes. So Ringnes.
Yes.
Brewed in Oslo. Hansa, Hansa, from Bergen in Norway. And then Ass, Aass.
I mean,
that's Norwegian Budweiser.
You never drank any ass?
Right.
Okay.
Oh, hold on. Before we keep going, I do want to throw in this fun trivia of Dogfish Head that I learned tonight, actually.
Please.
So and Alessandro, you cook like myself a lot, so you'll appreciate this. So the founder of Dogfish Head wanted to find a way to add more hops and make his beer hoppier without making it bitter. So he was at a bar somewhere and was happened to be watching a cooking show, and he saw the chef adding peppercorns throughout the cooking process, not just at the beginning and not just at the end and not just during the middle. So he thought to himself, he's like, well, what if I did this in the beer to where, the flavors are more subtle, and it creates a more complex and more balanced beer. So the founder happened to be going by a Salvation Army store and found an old tabletop, like a vibrating American football machine. And I guess strapped it to, so like kind of like foosball, I guess, but more electric. But put it up to where they're brewing the beer, and it started vibrating to steadily shake out these hops into the beer for over 90 minutes. And that's how Dogfish Head 90 Minute was born.
Wonderful. See, I didn't know this.
Yeah, it was super interesting to read that. I was kind of blown away by it.
Yeah, I love that creativity in the brewing process, man. That's unbelievable.
That's the wizardry.
The wizardry.
It is the wizardry. Exactly.
It's okay if you're still drinking a second bottle of the first.
Exactly.
Okay, that still counts as the first bracket?
Yes. Yeah. You just opened the beer brackets. You're fine.
Okay. Earl, I definitely recommend you revisiting the Dogfish Head 90 Minute.
I would like to. I haven't had it in a while, and I think it's, as you said, it's a beer that has like history, but it also has history for a reason. Like it has like a lot of complexity, and it's one that the only reason why we haven't really looked at it for reviews is that I'm not sure that Joe can actually find it. But I have thought about bringing it on the channel in one of the episodes where like this one where we can, just describe it and.
Right. Well, even just for personal taste, revisit it.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, I haven't had it for a couple of years actually, and I only had, I think, one bottle of it prior to this, and enjoyed it. But it very much reminds me of what is the London bitter. Yeah, we tried.
You thinking about the London Pride?
London Pride, yes, very similar to that. Not quite as bitter on the back; it's more mid palate, but.
See, that's interesting because that's a style of beer that I personally like a lot, and now makes me think like I definitely want to try it again. So thanks for the recommendation, man.
Absolutely, yeah. Front end, a little malty, mid palate, you start to get a little bit of the bitter and the hops, but the back end also finishes rich but not overly bitter.
Spot on. All right, can we present?
Yeah, I can't get that one here, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, I think I looked
yeah.
at it, and that's kind of like why I didn't, suggested it because I figured like might not be able to, but we'll see. We might find a way.
Yeah, maybe we'll find a way, man. I mean, once the borders open up again, we can start shipping each other stuff.
Oh yeah.
I think now it's at least shipping from Canada to the US. There's really intense fees on it, and I think they're restricting like food products. I don't know if alcohol
it's
qualifies.
Pretty much the same. I looked into it for a little bit, so we'll see. We'll find out. Like, I mean, there's going to be ways, and as soon as obviously, COVID is a little bit more under control, there's going to be ways to find, like, either when you come and visit or the other way around. Like, we're going to find a way, like, to get more exchanges going on.
Exactly. We could become importer exporters, man. We start sending each other beer. There's clubs of people that do that. I remember Steve was telling us about that.
Yep.
Well, actually, he tipped me off to somebody in Toronto that imports beer from Europe and the States. And then they just kind of they're like a dealer, and then they distribute it here. So you just hook up with them, and then they mark it up to make it worth it for them. And then you can get beers that you can't get at liquor stores or anywhere else.
We definitely have to look into that.
Yeah, we might have to hook up with some beer dealers. All right, man. So what are you closing your brackets with?
Should I start or?
Yeah, go for it. Please do.
All right. Well, it's funny that we went that route with the conversations, but I have actually picked the Innocent Gun.
Really?
The Irish whiskey cask.
Really? Oh man, that's so funny. I can get that one here too.
The Irish whiskey?
The Irish whiskey, but not at the one near me, so I have to order it to the store. But,
so the problem with this is that I haven't been able to find it for the longest time, and it's out of stock in all the places you look. Like I've seen it a couple of times because it's a seasonal, I think, so they didn't do it all the time. So I found this like a few days ago, just going into this random liquor store. I was looking for some of the other beers that we're going to be reviewing, and I found it there in the shelf, and I said, well, I gotta get it. Like, if not for the channel, I'm just going to drink it, on my own. Like, I love this beer. So, so I got it, and I thought, like, why not? Let's present it on the channel tonight. Like, since we're, almost a month away from St. Patrick, it could be like a good, way to get into there.
Oh man. I got to, every time I order from one LCBO to another one, it takes they say anywhere from 5 to 30 business days. It's give me a crazy amount of time. But man, I really want to try that one.
Oh, this is so good. I've had it before. I'm so excited for this.
See, that color is the Innocent Gun color I'm used to.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Man, I love that color combined with that kind of thick sort of chocolate colored head like that.
Mm.
It's delicious. Okay, but what do you smell on it right away?
Oh yeah,
Describe the original. I want to live vicariously through you here.
So that with the original, we smelled a lot of that vanilla, more typical of bourbon casks. Like here, you do get more of that dry, kind of Scotch-like, if you want, character. But obviously, it's aged in Irish whiskey cask, so it's way more subtle, and it still has this sweetness on it. So it's a perfect balance of the sweetness elements that you get in the original, There's a little bit more dryness here coming on the nose, at least for me. And
So how would you describe the style of the beer? Because it looks a lot more. It doesn't look like an ale, right? It looks like almost like a
well,
stout.
yeah, well, it's still like I think technically like a Scotch ale, so it's still like as a style, like it's still that type of beer. Just like the difference is that the way Innocent Gun does their aging process is that they don't necessarily age the beer in the cask, but they can cut the barrel down in pieces and put it inside of the beer, kind of like use it so that the beer is like infused into these barrels.
Yeah.
But it still has like that higher alcohol percentage. I think this is 6.1. Sorry, 6.1. So it's still high ABV, but it does has that classic malt character. So there's very little bitterness to it. And just from memory, obviously, I've got to try a sip here before I can be 100% accurate.
Man, that looks so good just from the color, and it gets all from the carbonation.
Did you say there was very little bitterness to it?
No, I said that there's very little bitterness. There's because
Right.
it's a Scotch ale, so it's mostly sweetness and maltiness. And yeah, I confirm it. There is the only bitterness, if you want to call it that, comes from the fact that it has oak of some sort. So I wouldn't call it bitterness. I would call it astringency, more of like that wood character.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not hoppy at all. Like it's malty. It's rich. It's toasted. Has that silky smooth like character that we liked in the original. But to me, what I like about this more compared to the original is that it cuts a little bit more on that sweetness. Is not as prominent. So
Right.
it just like adds all of that complexity, and it does like the aftertaste is like taking a sip of Irish whiskey, just sitting there, and it's just perfect combination. Like you had a sip of Irish whiskey, and you combine that with maybe like a sip of a Guinness or a stout. Like that's exactly what that is. Like it's a perfect combination.
So
I
do you
remember
think, so the
having
main
it.
difference.
Go ahead, Joe.
So the main difference between that and the original is just that. So the sweetness is a little more subtle, and then so in terms of like the whiskey flavor, you think it's more on just the finish? Because I remember with the original, you can kind of, it's not just on the finish. That whiskey flavor was really prominent throughout the entire experience. So here it's just more something that's subtle at the end. And does that
It
like
is.
cut the sweetness more?
It is still prominent throughout the experience, but it's different the character. Like imagine like on that one there, the caramel and vanilla were prominent as notes. Here it's more of the toasted, roasted character with that dry astringency, all typical of whiskey barrels, but it's not as sweet as vanilla and caramel as we tasted in the original. And the finish is where kind of like it really shines through. You get that roasted character way more. I don't want to call it dry, but astringent for sure. So that's kind of like how it compares, like in the two. So you don't get too much of that like sweetness, bourbon-like character.
Yeah.
That sounds very much like the last time I had it. Astringent's a perfect word for it. Not necessarily overly bitter, but you're right. Very similar to such Irish whiskey. Almost a florality to it, like almost a floral tone to it.
You can say that.
That does kind of cut through a lot of the sweetness of it. But it is very dry, very roasty, very stringent, a little floral.
Wow.
But
I love
compared to the other ones where, the rum barrel or bourbon barrel, it's almost sweetness deprived, where the other ones are sweetness elevated that I remember.
Yep. Can't agree more. That's between the two, I think we got a good like overall description.
That sounds amazing. I really got to try that one. I got to get my hands on it. It's interesting you described it as floral, Drew. I think the first time I ever described a beer as florals when I was talking about the Orval Trappist ale in the last Beer Brackets episode. That was the first beer. And I think I mistakenly called it a triple in style, but they actually, it's not a triple at all. It's actually, they call it a pale ale. So, but I was they don't label it at all. It just says Trappist ale, which is such a general term that doesn't really apply to anything.
Right.
But it tasted like a triple, and it had the body of a triple, and it had some finish characteristics and aroma characteristics that I normally associate with other Belgian triples that I've had. So I thought it was, but then turns out it's their version of a pale ale. But that was super floral, and I thought that was so interesting. And that was the first time I ever described a beer as being floral. So it's really interesting to hear you describe this Innocent Gun, the Irish cast, as being floral, or at least having some hints of floral elements there. Because that's a descriptor that I never thought to use with beer before until I tried that Orval. So it makes me even more curious to try this one now. So
it's something that kind of points out to me a little more because I have such an aversion towards it. Like anything that's, floral, rose, potpourri, like anything of that nature, I tend to avoid. That's not my repertoire. That's not my flavor that I enjoy.
Totally, man. Me too.
Matter of fact, Alessandro and I recently had a whiskey together. That on the back it said the aroma was fresh pencil shavings, and then pine, and then rose water. And never would I imagine a whiskey being like that. Now we're kind of going off topic here, but some of us who were there at the whiskey tasting loved it, and could point it out, but that's just not a flavor for me. So anytime I will pick it out of any beer.
Yeah. It's not a flavor that I thought I would enjoy either, but with that particular beer, the Orval, it was so intensely bitter at the same time, and for some reason the bitterness just kind of canceled out the floral element. So with the floral came a little bit of sweetness, and I think I described it as almost like have you ever smelled like a lilac or lavender? Because those kind of like their floral have a bit of sweetness to them as well. So it's almost like a sort of a bit of a honey finish there at the same time, and but the intense bitterness of that beer combined with the floral element, it works somehow, and it creates this really refreshing light, and it's really highly carbonated as well. So it's just this really refreshing experience that I love, and I've had it a couple of times. I'm just like, I shouldn't. It's almost like the Duchess, where I'm like, I shouldn't like this beer. This goes against everything that I think I would hate. But there's just something about how it's balanced and how it's put together. It just works. It works perfectly. Drew, are you closing with a Yuengling?
What else would I be closing with, sir? How'd you guess?
Wait,
man, what?
Drew, I need you to taste Yuengling in a tasting glass.
Oh, okay. Shit.
As we would have it, I have a fresh one here.
So I wanted to do a review of Yuengling, but I can't get it in Canada. They don't export it here.
They don't.
It falls upon you, Drew.
Yuengling. Go ahead, Errol.
I said it falls upon you to give Yuengling justice with this review.
I will do my best.
I freaking loved Yuengling, man. The only time I had it was that last trip down to Tampa where we met. And, I was drinking it most of the time we were down there. And I loved it, man. It's such a delicious beer. It's so good.
It's a very easy drinking beer, absolutely. Yeah. At least they're traditional. So, run through a quick story of it. It's the oldest still running brewery in the United States. 1829. Whenever started. So actually in 8 years, it will be its 200th anniversary. Wow. But until 1985, they did not basically reissue this traditional lager, which is more of an amber lager, actually. If you look at it, get kind of close, that's almost closer to a red ale amber, more than it is at least typical American lagers where it's, pale yellow straw, or more of that Pilsner kind of color. But to me, it's just an easy drinking beer, exceptionally economical, and as well, it's also the largest craft brewery. It's still labeled a craft beer, actually.
Exceptionally economical. I love that.
Yeah. It's a beautiful description, Drew. I think you have to get into the tasting here. So I'm going to remind you how the tasting, the rating system works.
Yes, sir.
So we're going to start with aroma right off the bat, and you can give it 1, 2, or 3 points. You can also give it 0 if you want. Now 1 is for nice, 2 is for good, 3 is for great. So that's as easy as that. So just nose. So aroma, and go ahead, sir.
All right. So I do have the Glencairn here. Unfortunately, it didn't produce a lot of head, which we know that the head is where the aroma's from. So,
see, I did not know that. I'm already learning. I've been looking forward to watching Drew review Yuengling for so long. I'm so excited.
It's like a kid like at Christmas Day, right? Like
Yeah, look like me and Alessandro are both like.
oh, I get to tell you about my favorite toy. Yes. So from the Glencairn, there's not a lot there. Honestly, let me try it with the head on there. And maybe my olfactory is a little overwhelmed from the previous, IPA that I had.
You're moving from an ale to a lager, so it's going to be like
Yeah.
You got to adjust.
Yeah.
So take a sip if you need to. It's fine.
Take a couple of sips.
Yeah, just a couple, just in case.
Yeah. By the way, I think we should clarify that Drew is a Yuengling enthusiast, which is why we're so excited to watch him review this.
So, Yuengling hat. I also have the decal back here. Funny enough, before I moved down here, a gentleman that I worked with back in Arkansas, his dad worked at the Yuengling Brewery in Tampa, and I was going to try to get a job at the brewery, as whatever would have it, mechanical operator, what so have you. And I actually found out today, I don't know if you know about this beer, but this is a beer that I work at a liquor store and get asked about quite a lot. And Alessandro, you may remember this beer slightly, called Stro.
Yeah, I remember people asking.
So the brewery that Yuengling bought in Tampa was the old Stro Brewery.
Now I remember, yes. I read about this when I was researching a little bit of the history, and I know that the owner, who's from Pennsylvania, used to come down here in Florida on vacation, and he noticed that brewery was on sale at a certain point, and decided, well, I want to buy it and just establish like a third brewery for Yuengling. There's two up in Pennsylvania, and the third one is down here in Tampa.
The original one burned down within 2 years of their making.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, burned down within 2 years of their making. Then come Prohibition. The way that they stayed alive, they made what they called near beers, or basically what we would call non-alcoholics now. So all your 0.5%. So, and like not necessarily session ales, and not seltzers, but these actually made energy drinks as well.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So that's how they stayed aflame during Prohibition, from, 1919 to 1930. So
that's great, man. A
lot of rich history there. As far as the taste, I will revisit.
Wait, you got to give us the rating for the aroma. Is it 1, 2?
Yeah, we got to get.
You're right. I'm sorry, not taste, aroma. Truthfully, for the aroma, I will give it a 1.
It's expected. That's expected.
That's a nice. That means let's not forget 1, 2, and 3 are all in the realm of good.
Yeah,
they're
nice.
Right,
and it's not a beer that's going to stand out on the aroma.
It's not offensive whatsoever. There's no hoppiness. There's not overwhelmingly roasty or anything like that. It just smells clean. Maybe slightly sweet, but clean and sweet is the best way I can kind of describe the flavor to you. As far as taste goes, I'll even go back and forth between.
So 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Gonna go 3.
Oh yeah, I can hear y'all whispering back there.
We're just hoping, man. We're hoping. We want a 3.
So I do like the Yuengling taste for what it is. And, anytime that I see you guys rate a beer, I always try to kind of factor in what kind of beer it is. Granted, it's been a smallish circle so far. It's been expanding since the first few episodes.
Yeah.
But lagers itself, are known to be a little cleaner, not quite so overwhelming to the palate, overwhelming to the aroma. So this to me hits a 3 because it is clean. There is some sweetness there. And then moving on to the finish.
Oh, wait, mouthfeel.
I can do finish first. Yeah, we can bounce around a little
Yeah,
bit.
you can. Yeah, you're allowed, sir. You're allowed.
So sure. So I'll factor in finish to taste.
Cool.
Or even mouthfeel. So
yeah,
the finish is longer than what you would think from a lager. Actually, typically, from growing up drinking, and I guess these may be more Pilsner like than lager, which aren't too far off from each other. Pale lagers and Pilsners, as your Pilsner or Pale episode told.
I like how you're putting in these references to our episodes too. It's like
absolutely, yeah. Hit the link down below if you haven't seen the Pilsner or Pale episode.
Yes.
And but anyway, like most lagers or Pilsners or ambers even, the finish is very, very quick and just goes. I can still taste it. I can still taste some malt, some barley there, but a little bit of sweetness, but there's no bitterness. There's really nothing kind of cutting through except for how crisp it is. If I don't know the IBUs, honestly, on Yuengling, you think I would being a connoisseur, but I don't. I'm sorry. But to me, just the fact that it's so crisp helps cut through the amount of sweetness that this beer has. So I'll get the finish at 2, closer to a 2.5, probably, like in that neighborhood.
It's a high 2.
What?
It's a high 2. Like
high 2. Yeah. High 2.
A high 2.
For finish, not taste, but finish. Yeah. And so I guess I'm adding one category to your tasting methodology here.
I think I've given a high 2 before. I think, right, Alessandro?
You have. I love high 2s because they're just like projecting you towards 3. So that's perfect.
Yeah. It makes the 3 that much more valuable too.
Exactly.
And as far as mouthfeel goes, I will give it a 3. As far as mouthfeel goes, because it continues to make me salivate as I drink the beer. Like, it makes me want to go back for more. I don't know if it's just dehydrating me and making me thirstier, but I want to go back for more.
So what about an overall score on 3 now? So the last
1 to 3 without giving, 2.5 here and there. I would probably still give it a 2. Honestly, just for the fact that the aroma it's nice. But there could be more. It's not necessarily inviting by any means. It's just it smells crisp. It smells like it'd be refreshing, which is interesting because of how dark it is. You wouldn't think a beer this dark would be, as sharp or as crisp.
That was one thing that threw me off about Yuengling too. Exactly that. When you look at it and you see how dark it is, that dark amber tone to it, you would expect it to be so much more, to have such a stronger aroma. I expected it to have like a much stronger finish to it too, like a lingering aftertaste. I was expecting it to be just a lot heavier as well, but it's so light and easy drinking and crisp. It's just, you really don't expect it based on looking at it. The visuals are really tricky there. Drew, thanks for the review. We got Drew to review Yuengling. This has been a dream of ours.
I'm going to calculate your score, Drew.
Calculate it. It'll be what, 2.6 roughly?
No, wait. So tell me if I'm right. So aroma 1, taste is 3, mouthfeel is 3, finish is 2, right? And overall is 2.
Yes.
So if that's correct, we were sitting at 3.66, which is just borderline excellent, but we're still in the great category.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So, and to me, for a beer that you can buy on sale for $18.99, for a 24 pack.
That's not bad at
I'm all for it. You know?
Yeah.
So, by the way, like we didn't pay Drew yet for all the sponsoring of our episodes. Like, he's coming.
I got a lot more glasses up in the cabinet. You let me know whatever we're reviewing. I'll pop it out here. Tell me whenever we're doing Stella. I'll do that.
All right. I haven't had a beer in a while, so I'm gonna crack my closing bracket here.
Please, man, like
I've been going like 15 minutes here without a beer. I gotta get one going. Okay. So actually, I told you about this one, or at least I sent you a picture of this one last week. I discovered this one a couple of months ago, and I love it. And I'm not normally into these types of beers, but this one is so fantastic. So I call this one my dessert beer. This is a brewery called Young's out of England. So Young's actually let me adjust my light here. It's shining. All right.
You do that. Joe, I gotta go pee. Keep talking.
Oh,
I go
yeah,
back.
okay. I can do it in a second. We'll fix it all in editing. Don't worry about it.
Oh, look at that. The connoisseur is back.
Connoisseur is back. All right. So this is a brewery out of England, specifically out of London, called Young's. So they have a small chain of pubs throughout London, and they brew their own beer that they serve inside the pubs. So they've been around since 1831, brewing their own beer and serving them exclusively inside their bars. And this is their double chocolate stout. When I call it my dessert beer, it is like a dessert. And it is freaking incredible. So when I say I don't normally go for beers like this, I'm not the biggest fan of stouts. Like if I have a one-off stout here and there that's done really, really well, it's interesting, I'll enjoy it, but it's not something I crave. It's not something I go out of my way to get or have on a regular basis. But this one is incredible. And for one reason, it's got a widget in there. So I'll show you how this looks.
I thought I remember that. Yeah, it does have the little nitro ball in there, correct?
It's got the little nitro ball.
Look at that creaminess coming through.
Yeah, so it's just like a good old can of Guinness, but it's like drinking a chocolate milkshake at the same time.
I mean, drinking a chocolate milkshake that tastes like beer too, like that's heaven.
Yeah, so it is just under 6%. You're looking at 5.9%, and you can see what that little nitrogen widget does to it. And man, it's so creamy, so smooth, and so light.
Describe it to us.
Well, you get off the aromas. The aroma actually isn't that strong, which is one of the downfalls of this beer. If this one had a really, really potent aroma, it would take it to just another level. But it's actually one of the reasons why I like it is because it's kind of light on that sense. There isn't that strong of an aroma. There isn't that strong of a finish. It's all kind of about the taste and the mouthfeel. So the taste and the mouthfeel are really forward on this one, and everything else takes a bit of a backseat, which makes it really easy drinking. And I think if it had a stronger aroma, if it had a stronger finish, I might not like it as much because I'm not a big fan of sweetness in my beers, overpowering sweetness. It's not just a flavor that I go for, but this one is so light and crisp. So if I was rating it and I was talking about the aroma, it would actually score pretty low. Out of the aroma, you get a bit of maltiness, and you get chocolate. I mean, it's like you crack open a bar of dark chocolate and you're just taking a big whiff of it. That's what you get. But there isn't much else there. It's really, really nice. It's a very light, faint chocolate aroma. And then on the taste, it tastes like a Guinness in a lot of ways. You can taste the oats, the roasted element there. So the roasted oats are kind of like the only similarity with Guinness. And then after that, it's just chocolate, but in such a light, faint way. And then on the mouthfeel, it's really light and fluffy, just from the widget. It's freaking delicious. I love this beer. It goes down so easy. And on the finish, you get almost like a coffee. So it keeps like the roasted element, but the roasted combined with the chocolate creates that kind of extra bitterness that makes you think coffee, like coffee beans, freshly ground coffee beans. So you get that on the finish, and then it just disappears after a couple of seconds. And it just makes you want to go back for more and more and more. And I freaking love this beer. It's so good. And they have this is actually the only one that they export that I can get. in Canada, but they have a whole range of different beers, and they actually make a couple of different stouts. But I'd be really curious to try their other ones. But this is freaking fantastic.
You know,
I know we used to have that beer, at least in the year that we were in.
Mhm.
And Joe, it sounds like the way that you're talking about it. To me, the best way it sounds, it's like if Guinness and Samuel Smith chocolate stout had a baby.
Yep. Exactly. And I'm not sure whether it's just the nitrogen element that gives it the similarities to the Guinness, but then again, it might just be like the oats, the roasted oats. I think when you have that as a base, the similarity, it's going to give it a lot of similar characteristics.
Well, if anything, if you lift it up and like air it out, like Samuel Smith's chocolate stout or his organic chocolate stout, would make it much more crisp and just easier to drink.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that I was thinking when you were describing it, I was thinking exactly what Drew said, like the Sam Smith, that type of aroma, but obviously not having the nitrogen, it's going to take a little bit away from that mouthfeel that we both like love in Guinness.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a perfect description. If you think Guinness and Samuel Smith, like the chocolate stout, like those two combined, I think like probably have that kind of combination for who can access is it called Young's?
Exactly.
Yeah. No, but I'm going to be looking forward to see if I can get it. Maybe we can find it here. We'll see.
And it's really good. It's the kind of beer where you might just want to try it once and experience it and enjoy it for what it is, and you might not get it ever again after that. It might not be your thing, but as a one-off experience, I've had other chocolate stouts, none that quite achieve this with the similarities to the Guinness. It's like a mix of, you mentioned that, and I know the one you're talking about. I've never tried it. I've seen it before. I think I can picture what it's like, but I think if you replace that with any kind of chocolate stout that you can think of, mix that with Guinness, you're probably along the right line.
Yeah.
Where Guinness has that kind of, you know what I mean? Like that sort of quick finish on it where it's really flavorful. It's really pleasant. It's not too strong. It's just enough that you can taste it. It's not overpowering. It dissipates after 3-4 seconds and it makes you want to go back and just keep drinking it. And especially, Guinness in the can or on tap with the nitrogen infused into it. It just gives it that other level of a mouthfeel, that creaminess where you could just drink it all day, right? And it goes down so smooth. And so incorporating that into a chocolate stout like this is just, it's fantastic. And I think it's a really good experience just to have as a one-off. It's a really, really delicious beer.
I think that's great. And you just made me think of something. Drew, how would you feel if Yuengling made a nitrogen?
Oh, so it's funny, like you said, your dessert beer. I'll get back to the nitrogen.
Okay.
It would almost be a creamer.
Yuengling made or partnered up with Hershey, actually, and I still have some. Give me 1 second.
I knew he would go that way. I knew he would do it.
I think we need to have an episode where we just go through Drew's beer stash.
Yes.
It'll be a long episode. So this is the Yuengling Hershey Porter.
What? That exists?
So they partnered up with Hershey and made a chocolate porter. And it's very much what it sounds like. But it's not overwhelming. It's actually very good. Not even being biased, like I've had their Golden Pilsner, I've had their Flight, I've had, Yuengling's Porter, their Chesterfield, such and such. Some I like, some I don't. This one is very good. Not something that I would have one after another of, but definitely a dessert beer. As far as nitrogen goes, I can't imagine Yuengling being creamy because it's such a crisp drink to me.
Yeah.
It would take it in the other direction. And I already enjoy the mouthfeel, but as far as I think it would affect the aroma, possibly. Maybe.
It would. It definitely. Yeah.
Maybe Drew, maybe it would bring the mouthfeel from 3 to 4. I mean, it's not even on the scale. You would be the first one to pierce the wall across greatness. That's I don't even have a word for that.
Right.
Man, Alessandro, I would think of that Saint Amboise cream ale that we had. Like if I think of like a like a nitrogen infused Yingling.
That's what I was thinking, and that's kind of like why I wanted to hear Drew's opinion. I know he hasn't had that, but I'm thinking that Yingling, if they ever did like a nitrogen version, that would taste so much like a cream ale. And I don't know what you think, Drew, but personally, for me and Joe,
I think it would probably be close to the honestly, like the what is it, the Wexington?
Are you thinking about the Boddington, like the
No. It's the little green can. I'm pretty sure it's Wexington's cream ale. I think is what it's called.
I don't think I've had that.
I think it'd be pretty similar to that. Again, I don't even know if they have the widget in there, but that particular beer is very frothy, like Guinness and like Young's. So I think it would be pretty similar to that. If I were to guess, I've not had Saint Ambroise, that particular style. I've had their apricot, I think.
Yeah. Well, the funny story, because the brewery in Montreal, last time Alessandro came down to hang out with me down there, I brought him to the Saint Ambroise brewery, and they only have it on tap over there, so they don't bottle the cream ale. And we were wondering why, because it's insanely delicious. You get it in a pitcher, right? They have it on draft, obviously. And so we get these pitchers of cream ale, and you'd have it's like getting a pitcher of Guinness, right? You would have almost like
you have
third of it,
this much beer,
creamy. Yeah, and it was just so refreshing and delicious, and it was just, you have that cold sitting out on the patio on a hot summer day. It was incredible. We had it. I would go there all the time just to get that beer. And then recently, I got to talk to somebody who used to work at Saint Ambroise and asked him why they never sort of exported it or bottled it or canned it, and just the production cost of canning a beer like that with the widget. You need to sort of hit a certain level of sales for it to be worth it. So you need to know that the demographic is there. So for a brewery like Saint Ambroise, it's big in Canada. They do export a little bit to the US. I mean, you guys can get, like you said, the apricot ale, and I think maybe their oatmeal stout. Maybe you guys can
get. We didn't get it until, or at least at the store that I'm at, we didn't get it until Alessandro actually pushed for it or like asked about it.
Yeah. And they have their pumpkin ale that they export a little bit too, which is freaking amazing. And if you guys ever see that anywhere, it's limited edition. They only do it in the fall. And I think they do export it to the States. I was able to get it in California one time, so maybe you can get it in Florida. But I don't know how that sounds to you, a pumpkin ale, but it is incredible. It's really, really good. Yeah, and if you tried the apricot beer, you know that they're really good at balancing flavors of beer like that. It's super subtle. Like it's not, like the apricot beer sounded kind of nasty to me at first, and they have a grapefruit beer as well that they do. That sounded like it would be a big turnoff, but they're so good at balancing those flavors where it's just so subtle and so smooth and so well balanced. But their pumpkin ale is amazing. Yeah, so if you see it, but that's why they never exported the cream ale, because just the production cost, you would have to sell so much of it to make it financially worth it to make the cans with the widget.
To even put a widget in the can, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah. I'll tell you what, like after they watch this episode, all the people that are going to watch this episode are going to be so crazy about it, and they're all going to go and email Saint Ambroise and say, "Where is the cream ale?" And we're going to finally get it. I know.
Dude, they hashtag where's the cream ale start a movement.
Yes.
They gotta know, because that patio is always full. They have like a big bar on the side of a canal, and it's just like hundreds of people, and it's always people are just ordering the cream ale, just like pitchers and pitchers and pitchers and pints of cream ale. So they know how popular it is. But I think it's just one of those things where I guess they don't think they can sell enough of it to make it worth it.
Well, strange. Earl used to homebrew, so get on it, Alessandro.
Yeah, man.
So I'll tell you what, Drew. We're gonna make it like a project. This could be like a little project that we have, the three of us, and we can try and see if we can come up with a cream ale recipe, and make it. And maybe we can.
I'm only gonna do it if I can dump a bottle of Yuengling into the batch. That's it.
What was that?
Then I'm only going to do it if I can dump a bottle of Yuengling into the batch.
You can do whatever you want, Drew.
I don't know how beer making works, but that's what I'm gonna do.
In the dumping process, I mean that I'm gonna allow you to drink the Yuengling while we're making this project. How about that?
Nah, that's all I need. I'm a simple man with simple needs.